Good evening, everyone. This is the October 17th, 2017 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Smithtown. We are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. The Planning Department would like to recommend the following items be recessed because the applicants are not ready to be heard at this time. Under zoning petitions, number 1, 2012-04, Storybook Homes, Wisconsin. Number 2, 2012-02, Carlson Associates, Kings Park. Number 3, 2010-06, KBC Holdings. Under waiver requests, number 773, Scholar Estates in Comac. Under 288 application, Mazetta Street. And under final subdivision, number 1136, map of Oak Meadow in Fort Salonta.
Anybody present in any of these matters regarding which the Planning Department is requesting be recessed? Seeing none, a motion, please.
I move that we recess items 1 through 6 as read.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So recessed. Now, before we begin with, or continue with the rest of the agenda, obviously you note we have one of our board members not here. You may all know this, but in case you don't, it requires a 3-vote majority of the entire board for a matter to pass, such that if it's 2-2, the matter does not pass. So if anyone, any of the applicants, in light of that, wish to have a postponement, that's up to you. We will entertain the application for a postponement. But if you're ready to go forward with a 4-member board, we're ready for you.
Okay, the first item under new hearings and decisions is an amendment of filed map for map of River Estates. The applicant requests to amend the conditional final approval for the subdivision number 919 map of River Estates on lot 2 in order to permit a proposed in-ground swimming pool, proposed cabana, and proposed patio, and to legalize an existing 5-tiered retaining wall, an existing metal fence, and an existing stone staircase in the rear yard. All these structures are or would be constructed within the existing conservation easement described below. The final subdivision number 919, map of River Estates, received conditional final approval from the planning board on August 5th, 1998 for a 2-lot subdivision. Conservation easement was placed on the map on lot 2 from the 66-foot contour line, 70-foot elevation in NAVD 88 to the river's edge to protect the natural slope. Prior to receiving final approval, the town board reviewed the subdivision for consistency with the local waterfront revitalization program and issued a consistency determination on March 31st, 1998, subject to 7 conditions. The planning board adopted the same conditions in its final approval of the subdivision, and conditions S1 and S3 read as follows. S, the planning board acknowledges the following conditions imposed by the town board's LWRP consistency determination. 1. Prior to the removal of vegetation and or filing of the map, the applicant shall file in the office of the county clerk a restrictive covenant attached to the deed and to run the land prohibiting the removal of vegetation on lot 2 below the 66-foot contour as depicted on the map of River Estates prepared by J.M. Land Surveying dated December 20th, 1994 on file at the planning department, except that a 10-foot swath shall be permitted to the minimum extent necessary to construct the proposed well, and prohibiting the removal of vegetation on lot 1 below 36-foot contour as depicted on the map previously described. 3. No structure shall be located closer to the water than as depicted on the map of River Estates prepared by J.M. Land Surveying dated December 20th, 1994, except on lot 2 an outdoor swimming pool, tennis court, and or shed less than 200 square feet shall be permitted provided that it does not conflict with any other condition of approval. The planning department would like to note the following additional information. 1. The proposal requires variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals to alter environmentally sensitive land, steep slopes, build within 10 feet of steep slopes 25% or greater, and build within 100 feet of wetlands. 2. The proposal required a new coastal consistency determination from the Town Board, application 2018-16. On October 9th, 2018, the Town Board issued a determination that the proposal was consistent with the Town of Smithtown Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, subject to the following conditions. 1. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit a drainage plan subject to approval by the town engineer indicating how all additional stormwater and pool backwash will be retained on site above the 70-foot contour in the NAVD 88 datum. 2. The exterior finishes of the structure shall minimize contrast with overall natural visual character of the local waterfront area. Colors shall be earth tones, brown, tan, olive, with low chromas and low values. 3, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit samples of the exterior building materials to the planning department for approval. 4, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the existing wooden dock shall be removed. The Engineering, Highway, and Traffic Safety Department have reviewed the request and have no objection. The Planning Department has reviewed the request and has no objection for the following reasons. 1, staff from the Planning Department inspected the site, and it appears the existing structures have not caused impacts to the property from erosion or flooding. 2, the Town Board issued a coastal consistency determination on October 9, 2018, that the proposed development is consistent with the Town of Smithtown local waterfront revitalization program, subject to 4 conditions. These conditions will help mitigate the impact of the environment on Lot 2. Planning Department recommends the Board modify condition S1 and S3 as follows. S, the Planning Board acknowledges the following conditions imposed by the Town Board's LWRP consistency determination dated March 31st, 1998 and October 9th, 2018. 1, prior to the removal of vegetation and or filing of the map, the applicant shall file in the office of the county clerk a restrictive covenant attached to the deed and to run of the land prohibiting the removal of vegetation on Lot 2 below the 66-foot contour, 70-foot elevation in NAVD 88, as depicted in the map of River Estates prepared by JM Land Surveying dated December 20, 1994, on file with the Planning Department, except that a 10-foot swath shall be permitted to the minimum extent necessary to construct the proposed well, and the following structures on the survey prepared by Mancini Architecture, PLLC, dated January 16, 2018, shall be permitted. Proposed in-ground swimming pool, proposed cabana, proposed patio, existing 5-tier retaining wall, existing metal fence, existing shed, and existing stone staircase, and prohibiting the removal of vegetation on Lot 1 below the 36-foot contour as depicted on the map previously described. 3, no structure shall be located closer to the water than is depicted on the map of River Estates prepared by JM Land Surveying, dated December 20, 1994, except on Lot 2, an outdoor swimming pool, tennis court, shed less than 200 square feet, and the following structures depicted on the survey prepared by Mancini Architecture, PLLC, dated January 16, 2018, shall be permitted. Proposed in-ground swimming pool, proposed cabana, proposed patio, existing 5-tiered retaining wall, existing shed, existing metal fence, and existing stone staircase, provided that it does not conflict with any other condition of approval. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Planning Board Resolution Number blank 2018, modification of conditional final approval for number 919 map of River Estates. Whereas the Planning Department has considered the request of Alexander Caro to modify condition S of final approval within the subdivision known as number 919 map of River Estates in order to permit a proposed in-ground swimming pool, proposed cabana, and proposed patio, and to legalize an existing 5-tier retaining wall, existing metal fence, an existing stone staircase, and an existing shed. Now therefore be it first resolved, the Planning Board hereby modifies condition S1 and S3 of the final approval within the subdivision known as number 919 map of River Estates as follows. S, the Planning Board acknowledges the following conditions imposed by the Town Board's LWRP consistency determination dated March 31st, 1998 and October 9th, 2018. 1, prior to the removal of vegetation and or filing of the map, the applicant shall file in the office of the county clerk a restrictive covenant attached to the deed and to run of the land prohibiting the removal of vegetation on Lot 2 below the 66-foot contour, 70-foot elevation in NAVD 88 as depicted on the map of River Estates prepared by JM Land Surveying dated December 20th, 1994 and filed with the Planning Department, except that a 10-foot swath shall be permitted to the minimum extent necessary to construct the proposed well, and the following structures on the survey prepared by Mancini Architecture, PLLC, dated January 16, 2018, shall be permitted. Proposed in-ground swimming pool, proposed cabana, proposed patio, existing 5-tiered retaining wall, existing metal fence, existing shed, and existing stone staircase, and prohibiting the removal of vegetation on Lot 1 below 36-foot contours depicted on the map previously described. 3, no structure shall be located closer to the water than is depicted on the map of River Estates prepared by JM Land Surveying dated December 20th, 1994, except on Lot 2 an outdoor swimming pool, tennis court, shed less than 200 square feet, and the following structures depicted on the survey prepared by Mancini Architecture, PLC, dated January 16, 2018, shall be permitted. Proposed in-ground swimming pool, proposed cabana, proposed patio, existing 5-tier retaining wall, existing shed, existing metal fence, and existing stone staircase, provided that does not conflict with any other condition of approval.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Trumarco. I represent the applicant. I've listened to the recommendation of the planning department. My client is here tonight. I've gone over the recommendations of the planning department with him just prior to the meeting. As Matt Colato indicated, we do have a DEC permit for all of the structures that were built prior, as well as the new structures, and also the town board approved the LWRP, so now we're asking this board to modify that condition and ask the board for the favorable consideration.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience who wish to be heard on this particular matter? Any member of the board have any questions on this particular matter?
Other than the fact you have the DEC permits in hand, or their approval of the project,
They're submitting.
I have the LWRP and the DEC.
that's fine.
That's it? Okay.
And just, they submitted the
After
affidavit.
the posting is submitted and is in order, then we'll have a motion, please, to close the public hearing.
In the matter of number 919, map of River Estates, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So closed. And now on the motion, on the resolution, please.
In the matter of number 919, map of River Estates, I move that we adopt the resolution as read
Second?
in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want
Good
me?
night.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yep, just-
Next item is
Good
a
night.
preliminary subdivision for number 1182, map of Roseville Park in St. James.
Did we read a lot of this in before?
We read into the record last meeting,
The entire
the entire thing.
matter?
Yep.
Then I'm gonna deem that the matter that was, to the extent that it was already read into the record, it's already part of the record, so maybe if you just wanna give the request background, and then definitely read the proposed resolution into the record
Okay,
tonight.
I'll just reread.
Okay, you wanna go through the whole
There
thing? No
will be
problem.
one modification, because if you adopt the resolution, preliminary approvals are good for 6 months, so that changes the date.
It's okay, just read it through and we'll be fine.
The applicant requests preliminary approval to subdivide a 2.49 acre parcel into 4 single-family residential lots. The preliminary subdivision, known as number 1182, map of Roseville Park, 1904, is comprised of one tax lot that fronts Lake Avenue, Roseville Avenue, and Anne Marie Drive in St. James. The parcel is 2.49 acres and is located in the R21 zoning district. The site is surrounded by R21 zoning and single-family dwellings. There's a single-family dwelling on Lot 2 that will remain. This lot fronts both Lake Avenue and Roseville Avenue. The subdivision proposes one additional dwelling fronting Lake Avenue and 2 additional dwellings fronting Roseville Avenue. Lot 4 also fronts Anne Marie Drive. The topography of the site is flat and located approximately 135 feet above sea level. The site does not contain any high groundwater or natural surface water features. All of the lots conform to the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The engineering department has reviewed the preliminary application and found it acceptable. It recommends the following as condition of approval. 1, an erosion and sediment control plan must be filed with the final plat application. 2, a concrete survey monument should be installed in the southwest corner of Lot 4. It appears that the second condition is premature to impose at the time of preliminary layout approval. However, if the subdivision is approved, the monument should be included as a public improvement. The Highway Department has reviewed the preliminary application and offers the following comments. 1, concrete curbs are required on Lake Avenue as directed by the Highway Department. 2, the 2 by 2 foot catch basin on Lake Avenue needs to be updated to a type 1 catch basin, moved out of the radius of Lake Avenue. The basin should be connected to the existing pool under the handicapped ramp and 2 additional pool in the right of way as directed by the Highway Department. 3, the ramp at the corner of Lake Avenue and Roseville Avenue should be updated to ADA compliant ramp. The Traffic Safety Department has reviewed the preliminary application and has found it acceptable. The Department of Environment and Waterways has found the tree preservation and land clearing plan acceptable and recommends issuing a secret negative declaration. The Department of Environment and Waterways also recommends conditions regarding the clearing of land and site preparation before construction that will be addressed during final plat approval. The Planning Department has reviewed the preliminary application and finds it acceptable and offers the following comment. When it approved the subdivision to the north on this property, map of Anne Marie Park. The planning board intended Anne Marie Drive to eventually be extended through the subject property to connect to Roseville Avenue. The proposed layout does not include extending Anne Marie Drive. However, it appears this layout is more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood than if the street was extended. The Department of Environment and Waterways offers the following resolution pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act. Planning Board Resolution number blank 2018, recommended secret declaration for number 1182, map of Roseville Park, 1904. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the secret recommendation from the Department of Environment and Waterways and indicated that any potential adverse environmental impacts associated with said project does not rise to the level of significance which would require the preparation of an environmental impact statement. Now therefore be it first resolved, the Planning Board hereby issues a secret negative declaration of termination of non-significance. An EIS is not necessary in the matter of application for subdivision approval, trust under will of Lattice D. Custer, care of Roger Budd, for number 1182, map of Roseville Park, 1904, for the following reasons. A, the proposal does not appear to significantly threaten any unique or highly valuable environmental or cultural resources as identified in or regulated by the Environmental Conservation Law of the State of New York or Smithtown Town Code. B, the parcel does not appear to suffer any severe environmental development constraints, no poor soil properties, no high groundwater, and no unmanageable slopes. C, the small size and nature of the proposal mitigate against a significant adverse impact upon the environment. D, the proposal appears to be consistent with the planned use of the parcel and compatible with neighboring land uses. E, the project as proposed on the tree preservation and land clearing plan prepared by Michael James Hillebrand, licensed land surveyor and dated September 19th, 2017, provides for the retention of a significant amount of existing trees and natural vegetation upon development of the subject parcel. This preservation shall be ensured by the placement of snow fencing or orange mesh construction fencing along all limits of clearing and around any individual trees to be preserved within clearing areas. This shall be done to the satisfaction of the Environmental Protection Director, and said fencing shall be maintained in place by the applicant until the completion of all land clearing and grading activities at the subject parcel. Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Planning Board Resolution number blank 2018, subdivision preliminary approval for number 1182, map of Roseville Park, 1904. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request for preliminary approval by a trust under will of Lattice D. Custer, care of Roger Budd, to subdivide 2.49 acres into 4 lots. Now therefore be it first resolved, the Planning Board hereby approves the preliminary subdivision number 1182, map of Roseville Park, subject to the following conditions. 1, an erosion sediment control plan must be filed with final plat application. 2, the final map shall reflect the following. A, concrete curbs to be installed on Lake Avenue as directed by the Highway Department. B, the 2 by 2 foot catch basin on Lake Avenue to be updated to a type 1 catch basin and moved out of the radius to Lake Avenue. The basin should be connected to the existing pool under the handicap ramp and to additional pool in the right of way as directed by the Highway Department. C, the ramp at the corner of Lake Avenue and Roseville Avenue should be an ADA compliant ramp. Second, resolve that this preliminary approval shall be valid for a 6-month period to expire on April 17th, 2019.
Mr. Quinn? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Terrence Quinn, 205 East Main Street, Smithtown, New York, 11787. Good evening.
Good evening.
Basically, our application today is we have a lot, it's 2.5 acres on the northwest corner of Lake Avenue, Roseville Avenue, St. James. We're seeking to divide that into 4 buildable lots. There presently exists a house on one of the lots. We've designated that on the map as lot 2. We're seeking to have a building lot approved for lot 1, which faces on Lake Avenue, and then lot 3 and 4, which face on Roseville. 4, I believe it's 4, also backs or fronts on Anne Marie Drive. Basically, today we're as Matt said in his proposal, that we don't see any environmental problems with this. There's no safety or health problems with this. It's R21 now. It's going to be, all 4 lots are going to be in full compliance with R21 if it's approved. Most of the lots in the surrounding area are R21 lots, so it would be in conformity to the neighborhood and keeping with the character of the neighborhood. I believe it's compatible with the planned use of the property. It's consistent with the neighborhood, the other buildings in the neighborhood. I would also ask the board to consider the tree preservation and land clearing plan that we've submitted. I believe that we've used our best efforts, Mr. Bud and the surveyor, Mr. Hildebrand, to carve out an area, a conservation area, if you will, where we're not gonna cut those trees down. But basically, there's a large swath in the back of lot 3, 4, and it goes into lot 1 on the tree preservation plan, which, we're gonna keep those trees there. I would also ask the board to consider that we submitted our application about a year ago on this. But for years before that, we had many conversations with the previous planning department regime, and they always conditioned the recommendation of approval of this on us extending Anne Marie Drive. That was not economically feasible for Mr. Bud, and he certainly didn't think it was the best use of the property. So about a year ago, he submitted this. I believe this is a much better use of the property than if we had extended Anne Marie Drive. Certainly, we would have had to take down a lot more trees if we extended Anne Marie Drive, which I know is a concern of the neighbors, the trees. We would have had to take down the trees. And also, we would have had to reconfigure the lots to fit the 4 lots there, if that's what we saw.
You have to turn the house on lot 4, probably the other way.
Right. So we would submit to the board and respectfully ask you to consider that this is a much better plan. It fits into the neighborhood much better than what the previous regime and the planning department had considered. And we would ask for your consideration of that and your approval of our preliminary subdivision.
So you've heard the recommendation of the planning department
Yes.
and the recommendation of approval, subject to the conditions that they laid out?
Yes,
And you're in agreement with that?
absolutely.
Okay.
Conditions are, yes, I'm in
Okay.
agreement with that.
Anybody in the audience wish to be heard on this matter?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Farrell. I'm with the firm of Sunwood Kosciuszko. We have offices at 1300 Veterans Memorial Highway in Hauppauge. First, I want to thank the board for its courtesies in adjourning the previous hearing to allow us time to review the plan and for me to discuss with my client what's being proposed and to give them kind of an understanding as to the proposal and what the plan is. I don't disagree with what Mr. Quinn said about this being a better layout for the project than running Anne Marie Drive, straight through to Roseville Avenue. I agree with that. I think my client's biggest concern is the way that their home was built it was built in anticipation of running Anne Marie Drive straight through. So like 60 feet of their 100-foot front lot line is actually right up against lot number 4. So as I expressed in the letter, my client's concern is the removal of those trees and kind of the loss of their privacy and being, potentially in someone's backyard where they could possibly build a pool house, cabana or a swimming pool, something to that effect, and that would essentially be in their front yard. We understand that there is a tree preservation plan with a lot clearing
Have you
limit
seen it?
line. Yes, I have. And I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. The only thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't protect my clients after the property is sold, in my opinion. From reading the code, it looks like this plan applies to the subdivider of the property, but it doesn't apply to future owners of the property. And I think the way the tree ordinance is written, it could lend itself to some confusion to future owners. Mainly because you're allowed to remove 10 trees a year from residential property without the benefit of a permit. So my clients could go to work one day and the 10 trees right in front of their house could be ripped down, and they wouldn't need a permit. Anyone looking at the code wouldn't think that a permit would be required. I think the best way to preserve that would be the imposition of a covenant restriction running with the land that puts all future owners on notice that they need to preserve at a minimum, I would say, the rear 75 feet of the property. I think that would be sufficient enough to maintain the existing vegetation along my client's front property line and prevent any kind of intrusion into their front yard.
So are you talking about the entire width of the property, 75 feet from the property line going towards Roosevelt Avenue?
75 feet from, yeah, from Amory Drive, south toward, I'm running crazy with the directions, but towards Roseville Avenue, yes.
And across the whole width of the property, even like the part of the property that's next to lot 3, which is furthest away?
3 and 4, yes.
Oh, so you're not just talking about lot 4, you're talking about lot 3?
Lot 3 as
Because
well.
before you got to lot 3, it'd have to be, I don't know how wide that, looks like it's 100 feet wide.
Right.
So you're asking not only the lot 4 to be encumbered, but lot 3, which is 100 feet from your client's property.
Well, ideally, it would be, ideally, it would be lot 3 and 4.
That's the people.
You know, we think that
These people are
rear,
here.
we think that rear 75 feet, still gives future owners of lots 3 and 4 plenty of room, to develop their parcels and add additional accessory structures.
It's
The
about
lots are
40% of their property.
Right, but there's a 75-foot rear yard setback requirement anyway in the code. So, I don't think it's a huge imposition. But again, obviously, lot 4 is the most critical to my clients.
And I guess another way to do it could be like a planting easement there. We've had buffers where they have to keep the vegetation in those areas. Not the same as a covenant, but sometimes it has the same effect.
I would
Conservation
defer-
easement?
Yeah, right.
I would defer to the board as long as there's some kind of recording to put future owners on notice that should remain undisturbed. I would defer to the board on that.
I mean, I'm not
option.
entirely opposed to some type of a covenant. I don't know what the applicant's attorney says. I have a lot more difficulty with it being on lot 3 as opposed to just on lot 4, because your client's property only abuts lot 4, not lot 3. But if we're gonna get into covenants, then we get into a whole different, bunch of issues in terms of covenant usually has to be acceptable to the town attorney. And what happens if there can't be agreed upon language, and what happens then? So any questions from the board?
Yeah, I just had I've voiced a concern in the previous meeting of that lot 4 possibly could be subdivided at some point and a house put on Anne Marie Drive.
Right.
So that was a concern I had, and I think council assured us that he would support something preventing that from happening, and perhaps something like that could be included.
Well, they have to come back before us to
I mean,
subdivide.
they'd have to come back before you, and I don't think they would get a Board of Health approval
But,
for creating a lot under 20,000 square feet anyway.
Well, I've seen things happen here.
I'm sure you have, but I know the health department has been cracking down on those sub 20,000 lots if they're not on the.
But perhaps a conservation easement would address your concerns. I don't know what that would entail legally as far as, we couldn't do anything here this evening to incorporate something like that.
No.
could we?
I like
It would be
covenants, I like
easier,
restrictions, I
would be
like.
easier to do a conservation easement than a covenant, because the covenant's gonna be more encompassing, but, it really depends on what goal you wanna do, getting it done
Well, I think
tonight
you
or
need two
getting a
things
covenant.
to factor in. I think number one, you need to, I thought it was a creative suggestion when I read the letter the other day. I think the first thing you need is some input from the planning department in terms of how they view that.
Well, from
Number
the
two,
applicant, too.
The applicant, has to express some viewpoint about.
Yes,
the
we're gonna
covenant.
have him back up here in a minute. But, I think as far as the subdivision is concerned, I think even if we did do that, they could come back before and
Right,
get it waived
that's
anyway, so, you know what I mean? So, anything else you wanna say?
No, I think
I'm gonna invite Mr. Quinn back up and see what he has to say about what you just said.
I think that's really my client's biggest concern is, having a pool and a cabana basically in their front yard. I think it may hurt their resale value down the line, so if we could do something to preserve that area in lot 4, that would be greatly appreciated.
So-
But if we go too crazy on lot,
Can I just
4,
offer
go ahead, Matt.
something? So,
Sure.
a few things. If Mr. Quinn agrees to it, and we all agree to it, then there's no problem. But if you're gonna put a covenant on a piece of property to preserve trees, you kind of gotta back it up with some sort of reason.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of more.
Usually, if clusters required, if they're asking for variances, if they're not complying with the subdivision regulations, then you can mitigate, have them mitigate that impact. But, they're proposing something that's as of right, so to just say, put a covenant on there, it's kind of hard for me to support that
Well,
in
we can-
terms of,
I understand.
but if Mr. Quinn agrees, then.
But that's,
From
And just
your
one other thing. Lot 4, it technically is a front yard, fronting Anne Marie Drive, so you can't have any structures within that 50-foot setback. And if you propose that, you'd have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and everybody gets notified by mail and signs. So, just to say that you're not gonna have a pool directly right there, it would have to be in that building envelope that's shown, so.
Right.
In other words, 50, past the 50-foot
So,
setback.
yeah, cause that's not really a rear yard, that's considered a front yard, cause it's fronting a street, so you can't have any structures in your front yard.
And the 50-foot setback almost covers the entire frontage of his client's property along Lot 4. He said 60 feet.
Except that your easel, I don't wanna speak for the zoning board, obviously, but I've been doing this for a long time. I think a variance for someone, would be almost a no-brainer in that scenario where their property just happens to back up to a dead-end cul-de-sac. If they wanna put a pool there, I think they're gonna get the variance.
Well, that's just speculation, who
It's
knows?
speculation, but, I mean, I think it's,
But even without the pool going in, I think your client's immediate concern is trees coming down.
yeah.
And
I mean, that's what happened, honestly, on Esther Drive, they ripped down every tree in that subdivision. Every single tree came down.
Yeah, we've had a
There's
similar
nothing-
situation,
it's their
it's
property.
very similar to this,
What?
where they
It's those people's
they
property.
took all the trees down, put a pool in, and they were expressly prohibited from accessing a road, similar to Anne Marie.
Well, let's call Mr. Quinn back up and see what he has to say about what you just said, and then we'll see if we can figure something out here.
If you put too much covenant on lot 4, you're gonna lose, he's
With all
gonna
due
lose value
respect,
too, right?
with all due
Exactly.
respect to Mr. Farrell and his client, there is no way we have agreed to that. But especially based on the conversations here where there's no particulars about it or any other thing like that. There's no way, and I understand that at some point, Mr. Farrell's clients may have a diminution in value. We will definitely have a diminution in value if we put a covenant or restriction on this property. That's a given. Whether their diminution in value comes to fruition, who knows? Okay, maybe it will. I mean, this is the best we could do. We're not gonna cut one tree that they're looking at. Now, in the future, could somebody do it? That maybe could be done within a building permit?
That would be their
Some
land
other-
then, so they
Some other situation? I mean, what's to keep Mr. Bud, he's not gonna do this, but what's to keep him from going down and cutting the trees down now?
Would you have any objection to like a conservation easement?
The particulars of that would have to be, I would have to have some input to that, and I would have to see
Would have to
what it
be
entailed.
perhaps something 60 or 70 feet of planting has to remain along the back, to give a little bit more than the 50 feet. But it wouldn't be a covenant, it would be an easement as be a condition of the approval. I'm just throwing these out as,
I understand.
try
that,
to
and
accommodate
that's
them.
what's
And
hap- that's
you-
what's
I'm personally, we haven't discussed this yet, I'm personally only talking about lot 4. I'm not really in favor of doing anything on lot 3,
Right.
because it's 100 feet from these people's property.
Agreed,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, again, could we discuss some type of conservation easement for their front yard? Maybe. I mean, I don't think that's 70 feet though, is it?
Well, no, I mean, I'm
Because
just,
The other
they're-
people's
the-
house is on Jefferson.
according
We're next
to,
them, and then
according to what Mr. Farrell just said, 60 feet of his client's property abuts your client's rear yard. So they're concerned with trees being cut down, as you heard. So if there was a conservation easement that covered those 60 feet, then those trees that were there would not be able to be cut down. There'd have to be like a buffer there. And if somebody wanted to cut down those trees, of course, they could always violate the easement. That wouldn't be that right, but could be done. Do it legally, they have to come back before the board and get us to waive that easement. That happens sometimes.
At this point in time, we're not prepared to agree to any type of restriction on that property, except for what we spoke to the board with, that Mr. Shea's suggestion that we would not, whatever we need to not build a house at the end of Anne Marie, not go to subdivide, whatever type of restriction, we agreed to do that. Any other restriction, with all due respect, I understand Mr. Farrell's advocacy for his client, and I understand that, but, I mean, we all live in a world where people cut trees down.
Right. Well,
Especially on Long Island.
Mr. Chase's solution, I think, is well-founded, but in reality, even if we put that on, if somebody wanted to come back and subdivide, they have to come back before us anyway. So they would come back and say, but we can have the record clearly reflect that we're granting this, if we grant it, with the idea that it's not gonna be further subdivided, and that if somebody comes in later on and tries to subdivide it, it's be on record that that was not what our intent was here.
How much you put in conservation?
And we would have no objection to that, putting that on now, but an easement, you know, without the particulars of an easement and the size, et cetera, we're not prepared to agree to that.
Yeah, I think a prudent practice, if it was gonna be an easement, would be the language of the easement be in front of you before you had to agree to it.
Right.
And we don't have that here right now.
I mean, you know, I'm happy that everybody has some input here, but
Right,
it basically
okay,
confuses.
so you just want us to vote on it as is, in other words,
Yeah,
without any easement?
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody in the audience? Anything else from anybody on the board? Okay, well, at this point, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
And we're gonna vote on what's just there, right, Jimmy?
That's what we're gonna vote on. We don't have anything else to vote on. First,
Okay.
first we gotta close the public hearing, then the secret, then the resolution.
In the matter of number 1182, map of Roseville Park, 1904, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Hearing is closed. Now on the secret resolution, please.
In the matter of number 1182, map of Roseville Park, number 1904, I move that we adopt the secret negative declaration as recommended by the planning department.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So adopted.
In the matter of number 1182, map of Roseville Park, 1904, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
And I do want to note, before we vote on it, I believe this was the one that was passed, but there was a problem with the advertising and we had to redo it?
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
so, go ahead.
Just a note, it's April 17th, 2019 for the expiration date.
So the resolution
First
should
six-
be,
For a 6-month period.
so the second resolve should just be amended to read, it will expire on April 17th, 2019.
Yep.
Okay, so as modified, a motion on the resolution, please.
In the matter of number 1182, map of Roseville Park, 1904, I move that we adopt the resolution as read, and we're gonna modify that the 6-month period will expire on April 19, 2019, and as, in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So approved. Thank you. All right, last is the adoption of the minutes for October 5th, October 3rd, 2018.
I move that we adopt the minutes of October 3rd, 2018 meeting of the planning board.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So adopted. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
2 seconds?
2 seconds.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none, we're adjourned.